Come celebrate Lunar New Year on Saturday, February 1st from 12 to 6 p.m. at Market Square Park with the Lunar New Year Festival and Night Market. There's going to be lion and dragon dances, a live DJ, cultural workshops by young audiences of Houston, and my personal favorite, a bustling rice market with street food and vendors. Head over to downtownhouston.org to register in the event section. The first 200 people to register will get a gift voucher to downtown businesses in a special red envelope. I'll see you at the Lunar New Year Festival and Night Market on February 1st in downtown. Today on CityCast Houston, brace yourself because Texas political news is about to heat up. The 89th Texas legislative session officially kicks off this week. And since so much happens during this time, I'm teaming up with our friends at CityCast Austin to lay out the most important issues to watch. So joining me today are executive producer at CityCast Austin, Eva Ruth Moravec, and KUT Austin's political reporter, Blaze Gainey. We're going to trade notes on the big issues at play, the lawmakers on our radar, and our wild card predictions for the session. Because again, this is Texas. It's Monday, January 13th. I'm Rahil Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about.
Hello, y'all. I'm Eva Ruth, executive producer with CityCast Austin, and I'm here with Rahil Ramzanali, the host of CityCast Houston, and Blaze Gainey, the politics reporter here in Austin at KUT. Hey, y'all.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Eva?
We are on the mic today because Texas lawmakers are back in Austin for their 6-month-long session. It's just kicking off, so there's lots of ceremonial stuff now for a couple weeks. It'll be a little fluffy, which always makes for a fun vibe. But how's everybody feeling as we are kicking this session off?
I'm amped up. I mean, I'm ready. I love session. It's to me one of the best times of the year, definitely to be a political reporter, obviously. But just in general, I think you get to see a lot of advocacy groups out. All the lawmakers come to town. It's like the first few days or weeks will likely feel like, the first few days of school where you're like just happy to put on your best suit and get in front of everybody and smile and shake hands. So I'm excited.
Is this like your Super Bowl, Blaze, by the way? Because, I mean, this is big every 2 years, right? And everyone's in your backyard. As you mentioned, there's so many groups and politicians. Everyone is, trying to get their message out. Is this your time? This is it? Like, this is the big game for you.
Yeah, I would say it definitely has different steps. Since it's 6 months long, I wouldn't say like this is the Super Bowl. I would say this is probably like the Met Gala.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you expect everybody to come in their finest, attire on the first day. I mean,
I'm watching out for this session to be the Republican stronghold. We're putting our hands down now, and we've made the changes that we needed to, and now we're going to get some stuff passed. And it's like we are taking over. So I want to see how they strong arm this session. That's what I'm bracing for. And that's my vibe check, right? Like, not only as somebody who's covering this, as somebody who lives in Texas, who has lived in Texas his whole life, I'm just like, what is going to happen? Because this is going to be a big one.
Yeah, they kind of only have themselves to blame if nothing gets done. But yeah, you never know what the Democrats have up their sleeves too. They're not gonna just sit by and
No,
twiddle
for
their
sure.
thumbs,
And we've seen so much news in the last several months, by the way, come out of the Capitol every day. And there's going to be news coming out. It seems like every hour, okay? Once everyone is in session and everyone has reported, it's going to be just nonstop. How do y'all cut through all the noise? Because I'm curious to learn from y'all.
Yeah, it can be tricky though, because I think there is a lot of reporting, especially early on, about just like every crazy bill that gets filed. And you're like, yes, but talk to me in 3 months. But my personal favorite way to stay up to date with stuff is the awful Texas
Oh
legislative
my gosh.
website. It
It's so
is
bad.
a train wreck. There is so horrible, but it's like the monster and once you get used to where things are, you can set up bill alerts and just really figure out like where the committee hearings you care about are going to be, and it just really spend some time getting to know that website, and following the lawmakers too can be super helpful, of course, in finding out what they're going to be interested in. So on that note, I'm curious, who are the lawmakers that y'all are going to be keeping your eyes on this session?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest players aren't fully decided yet in the House. I think once we know for sure who the speaker is going to be, we'll be able to really tell who we want to follow because you may today want to say you want to follow somebody, but if the speaker that he's a friend with doesn't win, he may be pushed to the back lines. And I think over in the Senate, you kind of just want to pay attention to whatever Dan Patrick says he wants. I don't think it's so much paying attention to a person, but more so finding out who he gives the bill to sponsor and see how far they can take it. But right now I think a lot of things are up in the air, and which is usually kind of odd. Like usually you kind of know, but I think with the House having the most members, of course, they usually have the people that you really want to watch, and right now it's not really clear who to keep an eye on.
There's just there are more egos. It's just like there's craziness always. The Senate is like it's Dan Patrick's Senate. The lieutenant governor really gets to drive the agenda in a lot of ways there, and there's just less room for chance. It feels like where the House, it's like I don't know. I just think it's an exciting.
Yeah.
The press tables in the House are always more exciting to me. People's moods can change. What happens that day as far as legislation coming up or not.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna keep mine very H-Town, and I'm following Gene Wu. He's a big one for me. He's a local Democrat. He's been elected to lead the Texas House Democratic Caucus, and we know that the Dems are weak right now. So how is his leadership going to change things and guide this session? And another one, even though he's not there right now as a lawmaker, it's Mayor John Whitmire. From the city's perspective, for me, we're always hearing about these connections that he's made in his, 51-year political career serving as a senator and a representative. Are these connections going to pay off for Houston? Because there are a lot of issues our city is facing, and these connections that he touted so much, when are they going to pay off? So I'm really excited to see how that works out for our city.
yeah, similar vibes here in Austin, right,
Yeah.
Blaze, with our mayor being a former senator, Kirk Watson, and the legislature always having its finger on Austin's business for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in 3 states now, and that's just something that always happens. All Republican-led states, and it always happens that the place where the capital is for some reason happens to be blue, and
Yeah.
and the lawmakers have to gather there, and then they, just talk about how terrible the city is. Even though I will say, like, don't be surprised to see them out enjoying much of what Austin has to offer during that time they're here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them might enjoy too much, by the way.
Together with in a bipartisan
Yeah.
manner even. Yeah. And bipartisan, speaking of bipartisan, I think for me, in addition to seeing the Kirk Watson effect, what happens with that, we have a couple really interesting representatives here. We have James Tallarico, who is kind of like in the intersection of religion and education. He's in seminary now, and he was a public school teacher. I'm curious about how he carries that out or pushes back. And then we also have a Republican representative, Ellen Troxclair, who used to be on Austin City Council. Not sure where she'll fall as far as like who's in power and where she'll be, but she's actually fighting an interesting thing right now, which is battery and energy storage systems in rural parts of the state. So she's kind of pushing back on some of the tech growth and looking at the environmental impacts and just like quality of life impacts that has on people living in rural Texas. And so yeah, where does that tech and quality of life kind of come together?
Interesting. Blaze, what issues are you watching out for during the session?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's looking out for what's going to happen with school vouchers. I mean, it's been sort of the talk of the state and really of
Mhm.
the country in a lot of places for about 3 years now. And I think just wondering like what's going to happen, what is it going to look like, and when will it happen? I mean, I think a lot of people would have liked to see a bill already because I mean you can start filing bills and although I don't expect that to happen until after the governor's state of the state. That'd be at least in my opinion that'd be the best time to release a package like that.
Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 is now on view at Holocaust Museum Houston from January 24th to May 25th. This groundbreaking exhibition is produced by the Bullock Texas State History Museum in collaboration with Refusing to Forget, and it explores a decade of hardship, conflict, and state sanctioned violence along the Texas border that threatened to destroy a community. But this decade also led to a cultural renaissance along the border and beyond, and it inspired the Mexican American Civil Rights Movement. Life and Death on the Border 1910 to 1920 will be on view in Holocaust Museum Houston's Joseph and Edith Mintzberg Gallery, January 24th through May 25th. Admission is always free for ages 18 and under and college students with a valid school ID, and it's also free to everyone Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Learn more at hmh.org/lifeanddeath. The Museum of Fine Arts Houston presents Living with the Gods, Arts, Beliefs, and Peoples. To celebrate its centennial, the museum has organized a once-in-a-lifetime exhibition that features extraordinary objects made by artists to communicate with their gods. Living with the Gods represents a vast array of religions and beliefs, with art created across cultures and across thousands of years. The 200 objects demonstrate the astonishing quality that artists have achieved when driven by passion and faith. Living with the Gods is on view from October 27th through January 20th, 2025. Visit mfah.org/livingwiththegods to learn more. That's mfah.org/livingwiththegods. With school vouchers, are we all pretty much agreed that something is going to pass, right? This time around with school vouchers is just what is it going to look like? And what other funding will be included in those bills, right? For public education, is that what we're waiting for? Like, how are y'all feeling on this one? Because this is a huge one that's going to impact a lot of Texans.
Yeah, I'll say like I expect this bill to be a lot different from what we've seen in the past because as Governor Abbott has said, he believes he has the numbers to pass it. And I mean, just like if you were playing with one of your friends on a video game, like if I have the full advantage, why am I going to do help you out at all? So there won't be any public education money tied to this. It will be strictly, voucher or scholarship, whatever you want to call it, money on this bill, and anything with teacher raises will have to be secondary. So I don't think the we'll see like sort of this omnibus bill that has like just so many different parts to it. I think it'll just be very focused on vouchers.
Yeah, he kind of already fought that fight, right?
Mhm.
With those primaries in really supporting candidates that challenged candidates who were opposed to school
Yeah.
choice. And so he's stacked the deck. And for anyone who's listening and isn't aware, school vouchers are focused on giving people taxpayer dollars to subsidize private school.
That's one thing that school vouchers changed for me. And I just want to share my story, right? Like usually we go, okay, hey, a politician's going to represent me. And most Texans are like, hey, we don't like school vouchers. This is not good for us from rural to cities. It's not good. We don't like this. And here comes Governor Abbott saying, nah, you guys are going to like this. Guess what? We're going to make you like this. So it doesn't matter what the people say, right? Texas is all about freedom for the people. Texas is all about we're our own state. We listen. No, this one actually, you guys are gonna sit out. So citizens, I'm sorry. I'm gonna make sure that this one passes by strong arming people in to positions of power to make sure school vouchers pass. It is so frustrating as a parent, and I still can't believe it. Like they are so proud of this, right? When most Texans are saying, guys, we do not want this.
It seems a little bit imbalanced, I will say. I think, like, it depends. Last session, we did have this promise of teachers getting raises, and, that just got tied up in the voucher debate, and that was really sad to see. Um, I would like to see public schools get funded at a better level because now we have school districts all across the state that are, really in dire need and raising taxes, which Republicans hate.
I'll say like the chance for for teachers pay raise to go up was last year. I think like if they would have just said, "Hey, this is probably the best offer we're going to get," they're agreeing to do something we really want, even though we don't want vouchers. Because I mean, now look where we are. Now it looks like vouchers is definitely going to happen. But how many of you here are willing to say teacher pay raises is definitely going to happen
Nope,
next year?
we don't know. And it's, there's things out there that could maybe help, right? By taxing sports gambling or marijuana, right? If we legalize it, right? There's funds out there potentially, but the House is like, yeah, let's do this. And then the Senate's like, no, we're good. We're not going to do this. This is not going to happen, right? And those are a couple of issues that I'm watching, right? Sports gambling has provided so much taxable revenue for other states. But Texas, nah, we're good, even though there's an estimated $8 billion being illegally bet, right? And my background, for those of you in Austin listening or wherever, I came from a sports radio background. We used to do reads, which are like live commercial reads for betting sites that are offshore. And we would tell listeners, like, go bet
Wow.
on this website that is based somewhere else and they will take your money, but we can't bet in Texas. Like, there's a loophole. You can do this. But man,
Yeah.
why we can't have Texans doing immoral things like betting on sports. Now, there are downfalls to this. And I will say, I think sports betting websites are preying on 21, 22-year-olds by tempting them with these parlays and only sharing their success stories. So there are some downfalls. But that's with anything, right? Alcohol, there's downfalls. Smoking, obviously, right? So it's frustrating. Like, hey, there are some taxable revenues out there, but nope, we can't. The Senate saying, nope, we're not having this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think like I was surprised when I moved here from Tennessee, where sports betting is allowed. And I was like, why wouldn't Texas do this? Like it's the
Yeah.
one of the biggest states, if not the biggest. I didn't know it was eight billion, but I was just like, I can only imagine
Yeah.
the amount of money that they could make from something like that, or like legalizing marijuana, which I think it's as you said earlier, like the House is okay with it, but the Senate isn't, and I think it's going to stay that way. And in fact, we talked about a little earlier before this show started about the fact that they're actually going a little backwards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick came out and said one of his priorities is going to be basically getting rid of any THC products. So you see them almost everywhere at smoke shops. There's probably like 3 within a mile of you right
Yes.
now. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so he wants to get rid of those products. Which I would imagine, like if some of those stores were to stop selling those products, then like I don't know if they would necessarily be a business
Yeah.
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
And so like that's my thought is like this will be really interesting to see the fiscal impact and the fiscal analysis on this bill whenever it does come up, because if marijuana is also earning a bunch of states a lot of money where they've legalized it or even allowed medical use at a greater value than Texas has. So it'd be interesting to see, like, taking this away, like how hard of a hit to the state tax would that be? I mean, it has to be a pretty large
Oh,
figure
yeah.
to us at least. I mean, maybe not to, the state, but
Right.
I mean, it doesn't seem like they're just like, rolling in money if they're not able to do some of the things we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's a little, like, it doesn't really add up in my head because we did have a lot of money last session that went unspent, because they couldn't come to agreements on a lot of things. It's like this disagreement between the conservative values that some of these politicians really hold on to and the, like, practical, where are we now as a state? What are, Texans interested in? Where are they spending money? And with gambling, I will say, like, I think last session, that was the top funded lobbying issue at the legislature. So that's a ton of money that people are funneling, and these casino corporations and other people involved in the gambling industry are funneling into lobbying just to make this thing happen. So like I'm interested to see how long they can resist that
Yeah.
dough, because it's tempting, right? And that's the whole game
Yeah.
there is lobbying. What are the lobbyists pushing? Where's the money coming from? And then you'll see the issues that are really well funded kind of get a little more of a greased wheel situation.
Yeah, I was already told by somebody who has worked with a lobbyist that's worked on the gambling issue that it, like, don't even think about it this time
Oh,
around.
really?
On the casino side or
On
sports?
sports side.
I know casinos
Yeah.
never.
Sorry,
I know.
Raheel.
I'm just gonna say I don't think casino gambling will never be legal in Texas. Like there's just too many factors at play for it
Yeah,
to be legalized here. But sports gambling online seems like a logical, easy one, right?
yeah,
It
It's so
does.
easy to roll out. First of all, you don't have to build anything; you're ready to go. But yeah,
yeah,
that's tough
I
to
mean,
get.
I mean that was just what somebody told
Yeah.
me, and they're a former lobbyist, mind you. But
Hmm.
at the same time, I mean, I kind of believe it because there's a lot of other things that they seem to be focused on that will likely take up a good chunk of the time they do have to pass bills.
yeah.
Yeah. Eva, what are you watching for?
I mean, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here because I would love to just stay focused on gambling and marijuana legalization. But as a woman, I am concerned with what's going to happen with women's reproductive rights. I'm concerned. We had this like really big abortion ban that went into effect in 2022, prohibits almost all abortions here. It's even, illegal for people to aid and abet an abortion. I think since these laws have been passed, there's been a lot of anecdotal reporting on like what the experiences are like for women who have died, and come close to it. So I'm curious to see. I think like when we get into some committee hearings that there'll be some really good research that is presented about like how the abortion ban is actually impacting women's health. It's a hard one because it doesn't usually get easier for women who are seeking an abortion in Texas, or it hasn't in the past. But yes, I will be keeping my eye on what they do to women's rights, as well as other marginalized Texans like LGBTQ individuals who may not represent most of the lawmakers. I think a lot of our lawmakers are cisgendered men. I don't think that's news to anyone. Um, and so I'm curious about who's not being represented but being affected by the bills that are passed by these cis men.
Yeah, no, those are great things to pay attention to. I will say that the news that will come out of paying attention to that will likely not be that great. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think there will be a win
no,
necessarily, but
yeah,
hopefully there's not as large of a loss, I guess, is
yeah,
the way to look at things. Definitely with the fact that, I mean, the legislature, definitely in the House, got a lot more
right,
conservative, right? So
right,
you'd imagine you'd see more bills targeting those groups, whether it's because they're intentionally doing it or whatever. But at the end of the day, it seems like the more conservative a legislature gets, the more likely these bills are to make it
yeah,
further. And so some of the ideas that, maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago looked like, oh, this will never happen. Now, like, there may be enough people in there that'll say, like, let's do
yeah.
it.
Let's just make pregnancy mandatory for everyone. But the one flip side or one side of that is that you also do see for these bills a lot of public interaction. So I'm sure that you'll see a lot of outpouring of support for the LGBTQ community and protests and marches and events at the Capitol, as well as for women. Those are always like pretty big days, I think, when those bills are up in committee. So
I guess what I worry about is like what Rahil said earlier. Is like it seems like they're just not listening.
yeah,
I think Rahil was saying that earlier. It's like, we want certain things in this state right now, or certain things we don't want. I think you were talking about vouchers, and it doesn't seem like they
right.
care.
Well, and sometimes the only way that there is that attention is like these shenanigans that happen in the legislative process, thinking about, when Democrats walk out to break quorum over a bill and go to DC for a long
Yeah.
time, or when there's like Wendy Davis had a filibuster over an abortion bill several years ago. I'm curious about any predictions for crazy shenanigans at the Capitol this session. What do y'all think?
Ooh. I don't think there's going to be many, Blaze, because it's such a stronghold for the Republicans. I think it's going to be pretty smooth sailing. I don't know. Obviously, it's not.
No, I don't.
I
I think
just
it's
can't forecast anything right now.
I'll tell you what I'm thinking to expect. And this is only because I just came from Tennessee, where I believe they had what I would call a very conservative house, and they had a supermajority there. And so, if Representative David Cook is elected as the speaker, I think we'll see a rule change
Ooh.
that will make it much harder for filibustering and
Mm.
killing bills by point of orders. And I think we will see, as a result of that, I think Democrats will then be upset and start to, maybe try to pull some of the tactics of, how can we go outside of what the rules say to try to kill a bill? Or how do I just call attention to what's going on here? And then I think Republicans will, at least the speaker and maybe like majority leader or something like that, may find a way to punish those Democrats who try to stop the things from happening. I don't know. I mean, it's a large
Yeah.
prediction, but I don't think it's that crazy to think that this could happen. I mean, if I just won the speakership and I have all of these now conservative Republicans behind me, I mean, why should I not? I mean, if we're already saying you're not getting any chairs and you still want to try to stop our bills,
Yeah.
like, I mean,
It's gonna be battle over the rules book, I predict, in the House. That's how I've seen Democrats fight back in the past, is they just gotta know the rules, and they've gotta bring up those, unless there is some shenanigan over the point of order rules, they bring those points of orders every time they can. And I know there have been some really strong legislators on that in the past. And, I guess that'll be up to like Gene Wu to really organize that effort, and try to fight with the rules as much as he can. But on a lighter note, just one fun sort of imaginative scenario I have in my head. I personally hate Rattlesnake Day at the Capitol. There's a city called Sweetwater, and in
Yeah.
Sweetwater they do this rattlesnake roundup that's just awful, and they like smoke the rattlesnakes out of all the hidey holes where they're in. And they decide to bring that culture, I guess, to the Capitol every year, and there'll be snake handlers in the rotunda of the Capitol extension. And I'm just waiting for one of them to get loose and cause some terrible problems for someone. I mean, I just think, like, what are the odds, right? Like, I don't know. The venom is there. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious to see the entire floor just running around because of a loose
Right?
rattlesnake.
There's a snake loose.
Which, by the way, have y'all ever held a rattlesnake?
No, definitely
No,
not.
right?
no,
Okay.
but this reminds me for some reason of
Yeah.
snakes on a plane. like it's just like a different
Snakes
version,
in the
like
rotunda.
Yes.
yeah, snakes in the Capitol
Well,
or
last year we had
snakes in the
like the
hearing
crazy
room.
flooding in the extension at one point last session. So it could happen. I'm just saying, if it does, then you heard it here first. Is there anything else that you guys want to add about preparing for this next few months at the Capitol?
No, I think this was really good. This was smooth.
That was fun. Just read beyond the headlines, actually dig in and kind of learn more about what bills are proposed, what's happening. Take the time to read, and follow great reporters like Blaze, local podcasts like ours, CityCast Houston and CityCast Austin. And yeah, just stay informed, because that's what they don't want you to be, is informed, right?
That's
That
right.
is it right there. And they being the people in power.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today, Raheel and Blaze. It's been fabulous. Best of luck in the session, and we'll talk again soon. Take care, y'all.
All right, have a good one.
See you later. That was CityCast Austin executive producer Eva Ruth Moravec and KUT Austin's political reporter Blaze Gainey. If you enjoyed this episode, please send it to 3 friends who want to stay in the know about Texas politics. So, what are you watching this legislative session? Let us know with the contact info in the show notes or send us a DM on Instagram at CityCast Houston. If you're new here, please subscribe and rate and review the show wherever you listen. Thank you. That will do it for today. I'm Rahil Ramzanali, and I hope you learned something new. Get those mother effing snakes out my mother effing rotunda.
Yes, exactly.